Welcome, witches, wizards, and magical souls. I solemnly swear that your magic is limitless. Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff. You probably already know which one you are. Probably you've taken the test, you've got the mug, or maybe even the scarf. But here is what I really want to ask to you today. Let's just sit with this. What if your Hogwarts house is not just a fun label, but it's actually a map of your inner world? What if the house you were sorted into reveals something real about how you move through life, how you make decisions, where your power lies, and where you might be holding back yourself, and where you might be holding yourself back? Because after 25 years with these books and years of coaching people through transformation, this is what I can tell you. These four houses, they are not just for groups of students. There are four fundamental energies. And you actually have the four of them within you. Today, we are going to explore what they actually mean and what this could change for you. So let's start at the beginning. Hogwarts was founded by four witches and wizards: Godric Gryffindor, Salazar Slytherin, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Helga Hufflepuff. Each of them had a clear vision of what they valued most in a student, and each of them built a house around the values that they valued. Gryffindor praised courage and boldness. Slytherin valued ambition and cunning. Ravenclaw sought wisdom and curiosity. And Hufflepuff valued loyalty and hard work. And every year, the sorting hat reads each new student and places the students where those values are the strongest. But here is what I find fascinating and what J.K. Rowling actually quite wove into the fabric of the entire saga. The system of the houses didn't come from nowhere. It actually mirrors something that existed in human psychology for years and years, like thousands of years actually. Maybe you've heard about Hippocrates, who is the father of medicine in ancient Greece. He actually identified four fundamental temperaments in human beings, four ways of being, four ways of engaging with the world. I'm pretty sure it sounds familiar to you. Those four temperaments actually mirror a lot the four houses of Harry Potter, of Hogwarts. Four temperaments, four houses, four elements, four colors. And this idea keeps coming back across cultures, across centuries, because it points out to something real about human nature. And Harry Potter is showing this like all along. So let's look at each one of the houses, not as a sorting category, but as an energy, as a way of moving through the world. Gryffindor holds the energy of the fire, and fire moves fast. It blazes, it acts, it doesn't wait for permission. The core energy of Gryffindor is courage in action. It's not the absence of fear, but because Harry is terrified constantly, but it's the choice to move forward anyway. Gryffindor feels things deep and they act on the feelings. They lead with their heart. They take risk. They go first. And you see this in the Battle of Hogwarts. When Voldemort gives everyone the chance to surrender, the Gryffindor don't hesitate, they stay. They fight, not out of calculation, but out of instinct and out of bravery. That fire energy is absolutely extraordinary whenever it's channeled well. It's this that is going to make you take a leap when others hesitate. This is what carries you through fear into action. But fire, unchecked, can also burn. And this is the shadow side of Gryffindor: recklessness, acting before thinking. A kind of pride, that says, I have to be the one to do this, even when it's not yours to carry. This is kind of Harry's main fault. The Gryffindor energy in you is your capacity to act in spite of fear. So the Gryffindor energy in you is your capacity to act in spite of fear. To stop waiting until you feel ready, but to go anyway. Let's move on to Hufflepuff energy. Hufflepuff is linked to the element of earth, and earth is patient. Earth is generous. Earth feeds everything. Hufflepuff is probably the most underestimated house in the entire saga, and this tells something about what our world tends to undervalue. When she founded her house, Helga Hufflepuff herself said that she would take everyone, the one that the others didn't want also. No condition, no criteria, just you're welcome here. And this is not a weakness, this is radical generosity. This is radical welcoming. And the core energy of Hufflepuff is loyal, it's consistent, it's sustainable effort. Not the dramatic sprint, but the long game. The person who shows up every single day, does the work, builds something that lasts. Besides Professor Sprout, the Hufflepuff head of the house, literally has her hands in the earth, growing things because she's the herbology teacher, and that image says everything. Think about this. The Hufflepuff common room is the only one that never changes its own password. It's always the same, because Hufflepuff energy is about constancy, rootedness, showing up the same way regardless of what is happening around you. But it also has a shadow side. It is staying loyal long past the point where it actually serves you. Because sometimes working so quietly that no one, including yourself, is going to recognize the value of what you're building. The Hufflepuff energy in you is your capacity to cultivate, to plant seeds today that maybe you're not going to harvest for months, but you still plant them today. And you still trust the process that even if you can't see the result yet, you do it. Okay, so now let's move on to Ravenclaw. Ravenclaw is linked to the element of air. And air goes up. Air seeks the highest vantage point. To see further, to understand more deeply, the Ravenclaw common room is at the top of the tallest tower. You can only enter the Ravenclaw common room by answering a riddle. There is no password, no trick, just pure thought. The core energy of Ravenclaw is curiosity without limits. The hunger to understand, the hunger of knowledge, the refusal to accept easy answers. And Luna Lovegood, my favorite character, as you might know by now, she is the most radical expression of this energy. She doesn't just think differently, she sees differently. She looks at the world without the filter of what she's supposed to see, and because of that, she notices what everybody else is missing. This is Ravenclaw at its highest. The mind so open that new realities become visible. But of course, air, like the other elements, also has a shadow. Ravenclaws can actually become so attached to knowledge, so invested into being right, that they lose touch with messiness of real life. They can float, untethered, just little too far from the ground, you know. So the Ravenclaw energy is your capacity for original thinking, your ability to question what everyone else is assuming. Your Ravenclaw ability is to look at your own life with fresh eyes and ask, what am I not seeing yet? And last but not least, Slytherin. Slytherin is linked to the energy of water, and water can be deep. Water can find its way around every single obstacle. Water is patient in completely different ways than Earth, not by staying still, but by flowing. Slytherin is actually the most misunderstood house in the saga. And honestly, it's part of J.K. Rowling's fault. Because for most of the series, Slytherin is the house of the antagonists, the bad guys. But let's look at what Slytherin actually values. Ambition, resourcefulness, determination, the ability to see the full picture, to think several moves ahead, also to find the path that others miss. All these, they are not dark qualities. They are powerful qualities. Ambition, when it's rooted in something real, in a vision you genuinely believe in a world you want to help create, well, this is one of the most beautiful forces there is. This is what carries you forward when everything says stop. Also, one last thing. You know that the Slytherin common room is actually located underneath the lake, deep beneath the surface, behind a wall that opens when you know the secret. That is Slytherin's energy, depth, strategy, the courage to go to places others won't look. And well, their shadow is when ambition loses its moral compass, when resourcefulness becomes manipulation, or when the goal justifies any means. So the Slytherin energy in you is your capacity to have a strategic vision, your ability to know what you really want, and to find the path to get there, even if it's not obvious. Okay, so now we have seen all the 4 houses, and here is what I really want you to hear. You're not just one house, you actually have the 4 houses within you. You have these 4 energies that we just saw within you. I quite like the metaphor of, 4 fuel tanks, each one more or less full, depending on who you are, where you are in life, what you have been through. You have a Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff tank. And maybe your Gryffindor tank is overflowing. You act, you leap, you go on, but maybe your Hufflepuff tank is almost empty, and you struggle to stay consistent over time. Maybe your Ravenclaw tank is full, you think, you analyze, you create, you understand everything, but your Slytherin tank is nearly empty. You have a hard time owning your ambition, claiming what you actually want. And what is interesting is that we tend to keep feeding the tank that are already full. Usually in life, you're going to do more of what you're already good at, which means that the gap between our strong energy and our weaknesses just keeps growing, growing, growing. But real growth, real magic, actually happens when you start to nourish the parts of yourself that you have been hiding, that you have been neglecting. So the house you were sorted into, that's your dominant energy, your home base, your full tank. But the houses that you haven't claimed yet, well, those might be where your next transformations is waiting. Okay, one more thing before we close. And I think this is maybe the most important detail in the entire sorting ceremony. The sorting hat doesn't sort you. It actually listens to you. Harry didn't want to go to Slytherin, and the hat heard him, and then he didn't put him in Slytherin, but he placed him in Gryffindor. Hermione was almost sorted into Ravenclaw because of her hunger for knowledge that is real and deep, but there was something in her also pulled toward Gryffindor, and the hat honored this call for Gryffindor. Even Peter Pettigrew, one of the most cowardly characters of the saga, was actually in Gryffindor. Yes, the hat hesitated for Peter Pettigrew, but something in Peter, at 11 years old, genuinely held that courageous energy. Then life and its choices took him somewhere else, but the point is that your dominant energy is not your destiny. It's a starting point for your journey, a home base, a place from which you can start growing in any direction you want. For example, let's take Neville Longbottom. He started as the boy who seemed to have no business being in Gryffindor, and he ended up as one of the bravest characters in the saga. Not because he became someone else, but because he grew into the fullness of who he actually was. And this, what Neville Longbottom did, is actually available for you too. So let's go back to your relationship with the different houses. Which house do you think you are? Which one is the dominant one for you? And which one do you feel like you're not really connected to? My invitation for you for this week is quite easy. Don't just go with the dominant house that you actually think of, but ask yourself, which house feels the most natural for me? Which house feels the most foreign, the most uncomfortable to me? The most not me. Because that uncomfortable house that you actually saw, this is probably your next level of growth that is hiding in it. So next week, we're going to go even further with the houses. I will actually give you a practical framework to actually activate each of these 4 energies in your daily life. Concrete, simple, and of course, a little magical. So subscribe if you don't want to miss the next part. And also, please tell me below in the comments. I really want to know, what is your Hogwarts house? Which one of these 4 energies do you feel the most underdeveloped in you right now? I'm very curious about this. I am Alice. Until next week. And remember, the one chooses the results, but you chooses everything else. May your choices be your magic.